Good evening, viewers, and you're watching the Mortgage Busters show, and we're all about helping you pay down your mortgage down to zero, nothing, so that you can go to the bank and say, excuse me, sir or madam, can you give me the title to my property? Because it's mine now, you've got nothing to do with it. The best position you can be in is not to owe the bank anything on your own principal place of residence. So we're about bringing in the right people to talk to us and you about how to do that. My name's Greg.
I'm Adrian.
And together we're hosting the show, and today we've got a fantastic show, fantastic lineup, Adrian. But what do we want to talk about first?
Thumbprint report.
Of course,
the thumbprint
report.
In case.
Just in case you haven't heard or haven't noticed us talk about the thumbprint report, get it done. Go to our website, or you can call. What's that number?
1300 TMB show.
1300 TMB show. Call that number. I'm pretty sure it's a free call, and just request for your thumbprint to be done. We'll do a profile on you, and we'll create a template for you where you can get started on your journey to greater living with better financial means.
No charge.
No charge, and there's no charge for that. No charge at all. So, Adrian.
Yes.
Today,
another guru.
We have another guru, and it's a she, and her name is
Natalie.
Natalie Greattrex from Greattrex Property. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Greg.
Have I said that properly? Is it Greattrex?
Greattrex, yes.
Very well said. Be a little bit careful with that one.
It's a tricky one.
Greattrex Property, fantastic. So, what do you do?
Well, Greattrex Property is a property management company. So we don't do sales, we don't do finance. It's purely property management. Okay,
wonderful. And how did you find your way into property management?
Oh, look, I've worked in the industry for over 10 years now, and probably in every aspect as well, from admin to sales to finance to operations and property management. And
what was it about property management
that was where my key area of interest was. I see an area that needs improvement in the industry. So I've gone out on my own to be able to deliver that service at a level that's lacking in the industry.
What's lacking?
Customer service.
Definitely.
Definitely.
That's what you've noticed?
That's what I've noticed.
So how, in what respect? Like,
never call you back first.
Communication, I think, is a key point.
Right.
I see in companies they managing portfolios that are too large, so they don't have the time to give it the attention the properties need. So I think one thing is definitely for my business is to have smaller portfolios in order to deliver that service. A lot of
so you mean the number of properties a property manager looks after?
Exactly.
Okay.
So
instead of 100
instead
for one
of
person.
200, which is about a standard figure for number of properties in a portfolio these days. It doesn't, one person doing that does not have the time to do the follow through that's required.
Okay. Well, I can certainly vouch for your service because I've heard nothing but great reports from investors that I know that are using your service, which is fantastic. So, time, there's not enough, the property manager doesn't have enough time to really monitor and look after a property. What else is there? Are there other main areas that are being not given specific attention or enough attention?
I think also a lack of knowledge. Property managers aren't building experts. They don't, they're not trained to understand buildings. We're just really a facilitator in communication between tenants and landlords and maintenance and middle people. I've taken it upon myself to go study building design to understand every aspect of properties, and I think that's something that I can definitely put back into my business and will benefit any landlords that are with our company. So,
okay,
are they just overworked? Some of these, because
I think
most of the ones I've ever seen, they're all grumpy.
They are
they're
very
never
grumpy.
happy about anything.
I mean, look,
and they're supposed to be there for the business.
We put up with a lot of complaints, but I think it's also property managers aren't really given the respect in the industry or that they deserve. So yes, naturally that follows through in the way that you deal with other people, and that's something you've got to avoid to deliver a good service.
Well, the property manager can almost always be the target, really, for anything that goes wrong with the property. But is there much that goes wrong? Like, generally speaking, if you're looking after the tenant and, everything's going smoothly, are there problems that arise You know, what are the problems that do arise?
Oh, the problems can definitely vary. I mean, in terms of having a property manager, we do routine inspections to ensure that we're in the property and looking at how the property is being maintained and
So
how
you
that person's
actually-
living in it.
You do actually physically go and do
We
these
do
inspections?
physically go,
Because I know
every 6 months.
Drive by.
every 6 months.
Every
yeah,
6
I know.
months.
Yeah, it's
You know,
fine.
that's the only way you can really see how someone is living, and we do provide detailed reports and
Right.
take photos when we do that to our landlords as well.
So, but you're sensitive to the needs of the tenant as well, I suppose.
I think you have to be. You
Yeah.
know, I definitely think it's good to have a happy tenant, and you've got to look after your tenants because they're
Burn the
giving
house
you that
down.
income for you,
Burn
to
the
pay
house.
your mortgage. And look, tenants will stay in properties if they're happy. I only hear of tenants moving out mainly if they're not happy with general little maintenance issues that aren't getting done, which landlords just turn their head to. So yeah, I think it's definitely you do need to look after your tenants as well.
Okay, but what about, everyone's worried about the story from hell, like you see on TV every now and then. Does that really happen that often, or?
It doesn't happen very often, and I think if you're following through and you do your due diligence at the start as well, then you try to eliminate having a bad tenant in your property. Obviously, when we receive an application, we do reference checks, so that's call any previous landlords.
So you actually do those things though, like
Definitely.
yeah.
It only reflects back on us. If we
Many
don't.
say they do, but they actually don't when you do the
No,
research.
we do, and we always ask questions like, did they look after the property and did they pay their rent on time? We also do employment checks, and if we're unsure, we'll ask for them to provide extra evidence in being able to pay their rent. So we'd never put a tenant in that we didn't feel comfortable in their ability to.
Do you do police checks at all? Is that mandatory?
No, it's not mandatory. It's
Okay.
not part of the process.
Okay.
You can do a database check, a national database check, if
Right.
they've been blacklisted in the industry, which
That
can
does
be done
happen.
if you want to. But generally, when you call previous landlords and everything, they're quite transparent in if they were bad tenants. They will tell us that they're bad tenants.
All right, so it's pretty much you do your inspections, you do your due diligence when it comes to getting the right tenant, and we've got to go to a break. So we'll go to a break, come back, and we'll talk more.
Thanks.
Thanks, Natalie. You're watching Mortgage Busters show, and we'll be back straight after these messages. Welcome back, viewers. You're watching the Mortgage Busters show, and we're with Natalie Great Tricks from Great Tricks Property. Natalie, it's great to have you on the show.
Adrian.
So, let me ask you this question. Are people quite often ask, do I really need a property manager, especially if they've got one investment property? What's your view on this? Can a person adequately manage their property, or do they really need a property manager, such as your gorgeous self?
Yeah. Look, I think it is important to have a property manager. For me, an investment shouldn't be an emotional attachment. It's there to help you generate income towards your retirement, and to have someone look after that for you, I think is very important. It is an asset at the end of the day as well, and you want that to be protected as much as possible. A property manager is able to provide you with inside knowledge to rules and regulations in the industry, and rights and wrongs that for tenants, do's and don'ts. One case I came across recently was a guy managing a property himself. Had 3 or 4 properties and had a lease agreement with the tenants. These tenants have been in the property for a couple of years now. And he was paying all the utilities on these properties. It wasn't built into the lease agreement. It wasn't an apartment that it was run through any of the utilities or through body corporate.
Utility, like water usage.
Water usage,
They had no
electricity.
idea.
He didn't.
He didn't pay the electricity.
He didn't get the tenant to connect
Oh.
them in their name, and he didn't
Right.
cancel it in his own
Oh,
name.
even electricity, not
Yeah,
just water.
yep.
And, whoa,
So, and it wasn't until I sort of
that's a good deal.
jumped in. I was sort of temping at the time in a position, and came across this, and thought, why he just brought the properties over. But I said, why are you paying all these yourself? And he had no idea.
Gee.
So things like that, when it's a couple of years of doing so, it definitely adds up.
And there's 3 or 4 of them. My goodness. Yeah.
But also time. I'm sure they've got no time. You know, they'll be at work and they'll get a phone call saying the hot water's gone. You know, because that's probably the most common one.
it is time. It's the hassle of them.
So how are they going?
You know, tenants. We get phone calls at all hours, and everything's extremely important. Of course, you know, it's the standard of living. So. You don't want calls at 6 a.m. and midnight when you're in bed or in the middle of about to walk into a meeting at the office.
But for an investor, it's also a tax deduction as well. So why wouldn't you be taking advantage of all that? You know?
Exactly.
So do you manage properties all over, or are you restricted to an area?
No, actually all over Victoria. So I've got property managers that work everywhere in a city and also the outer suburbs. So I've got the option to not be limited in where we manage our properties.
Okay, which is fantastic, because you might have, you know, if I'm with you and I've got you managing property A and then I've got property B, it's in Horsham somewhere, you could still manage that for me.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
I mean, if you wanted to have the same person be your point of contact, we could definitely arrange that, but we've got property managers at various areas.
Wow.
What about insurances? Is it... Well, I think it's important, but how important is it for somebody to have insurance?
Landlord insurance is an extremely important insurance to have. It covers you for loss of rent. It protects any damage to the property. I mean, I'm not a landlord insurance expert, and you've definitely got to look into your policy and what you are covered for. But I think you definitely need that extra level of protection, because you never know what could happen, and it could also be accidental, damage from the tenant's behalf that you don't foresee coming.
So Natalie, tell me, you're at the coalface of the rental market. What's your view on the market? Is it strong? What's going on out there? What's your assessment of the market?
There's definitely a strong demand for rental properties in the market. I mean, at the end of the day, people need somewhere to live.
Of course.
Not everyone can afford to buy. People are saving to buy.
Yeah.
People are studying. They move from different parts of Australia to Victoria, or from overseas, and I don't see that dying down at all.
Well, see, that's, what you just mentioned then is people are saving for deposits. They're moving into an area, I don't know, just pick one out, just officer comes first to mind. So you get a property, a 3-4 bedroom home that's rented, and it'll be a long-term rent, like 3, 4, 5 years, while they're saving up for a deposit to buy back into the same area. So it's just this sort of snowball, repeat cycle
recycle
type of
activity. Absolutely. And I'm also, these days a lot of people, younger people are buying investment properties and continuing to rent as well. So they're not also moving away from that rental market into their own homes. It's, the affordability for them to buy investment properties too. So
yeah, well said. And the other thing that it's like, you get reports in the papers or the internet or whatever about vacancy rates. And it might be a 3% vacancy rate or a 2% vacancy rate, or, forbid, a 6% vacancy rate. But a 6% vacancy rate is a 94% occupancy rate. Which to me is just massive.
It's good. I mean, hotels only run at 60 or 70% capacity.
Correct.
Or 55, and they think it's really good. So
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, to rent used to have, when I was younger, a while ago, just a couple of years ago, rental used to have a little bit of, it wasn't fashionable to be a renter, right? But these days you can be renting in Docklands or in St Kilda Road or whatever.
Oh, there's rental properties everywhere.
Everywhere, and have live such a great quality life in a premises
and
like
I think the mentality has definitely changed these days. You don't have to be living in the house that you own. You can still own, like I said before, you can still own property and have that as an investment and continue to rent yourself.
Absolutely, and rent wherever you like,
Exactly.
At the top of, a building in Collins Street or a penthouse somewhere, whatever. Anyway, there's lots of fantastic property around.
Lots of areas.
Natalie, you're very, very generous. You are, as part of the Mortgage Busters special, which any one of our guests, if a guest comes onto the show, they have to offer something special to the viewers.
Have to.
So in this case, Natalie is facilitating. If you're not happy for whatever reason with your current property manager, or you're getting an investment property up and running shortly, whatever the case, if you like to get Natalie on board, you've seen how professional she is, how well spoken she is, and how enthusiastic she is about her property management. Get on board with Natalie. She'll facilitate for you a year's worth free of landlord's insurance.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
In fact, that's amazing. So get onto our website. There'll be a link there to Natalie's story on today's show. Get her on board for one of your properties or all of your properties and get that 1 year's worth of landlord's insurance at no charge. Natalie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, and we'll talk again very, very soon, I'm sure.
Thanks, guys.
Come back to us after the break, viewers. You're watching the Mortgage Busters show. We'll be back with Steve Hudson, our finance guru of all finance gurus. The question will be, of course, whether he goes to the whiteboard or not. Come back to us after the break. You're watching Mortgage Busters show. Viewers, you're watching the Mortgage Busters show, and wasn't Natalie fantastic?
Yes, she was.
That's very good.
Yep.
I'd love to have Natalie manage my whole life for me if that was possible. All right, well, as you know, our last segment is always devoted to the king of finance, the king of the mortgages, who is Stephen Hudson. Steve, welcome.
G'day guys, how are we?
Very good.
Adrian, Greg, great show.
Great show. What did you think of Natalie?
Brilliant. It's
Very, very
some of the
good.
information part of there is very, very important, particularly when it comes to investment properties and also when you look at what banks are looking for.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to mention this word. I don't know if you've heard it before or not, but thumbprint report. Have you heard that before? Have you heard us?
Just quietly.
Just
yeah,
quietly?
I've heard about the thumbprint. Just quietly.
Well, I'm just in case you missed the thumbprint report, we're just going to talk a little bit about what the advantages of getting your thumbprint report done, what the advantages are. Now, Adrian, can you kick us off with that? The thumbprint report, you're involved in helping produce those reports.
Something for retirement.
Something
Help
for
you
retirement.
get somewhere in retirement.
Absolutely.
Have something. Have something, full stop.
It creates a template from which you can progressively plan your retirement so that you can live it out the way you want to live. But it's not just that. It's about everything, all facets of your finances, insurances, wills, a plan for retirement, a plan for reducing your mortgage down to zero so that you get the title, as I say at the beginning of almost every show, you get the title of your house into your hands. And hopefully down the track you get more titles in your hand so that, or shares or whatever, so that you can live your life in retirement as you will. Steve,
Yeah.
now as part of the process which we operate or we use, you come in after the thumbprint has been pretty much created. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well look, I mean, yes, with the thumbprint report, to remember that when you start talking about capturing the position or a snapshot of their financial position, coming in after you bring in the licensed financial planners if required, or if you need insurances, we engage with insurance professionals. And from a finance point of view, then I look at the finance. What it does do for...
Well, my question is, what advantages do you see for having done that?
What it does, it really sets up the viewer, client, to see their position and what they can do and what they can't do. And that's very important. We talk about people buying investment properties and trying to shove that property into their financial situation, okay? This is their first opportunity, and I talk about being investor ready to the marketplace and the 5 parts of that. And one of the parts is to get your finances in order, okay? Understanding what your method of operation is going to be and have a plan. Those are the first things to have. And the thumbprint really starts to outline the planning stage of what they can do. And then from their method of operation, then we can then structure the finances that suits the way that they're going to operate. And as we spoke about in previous programs, if they're a renovator, it's going to be a different structure from someone that's going to be purely buying a land and a construct type investment situation, or off the plan might be slightly different again.
Absolutely. You're going to have to get a thumbprint report done because either that's a squeaky hip you've got, or it's a squeaky chair, one or the other.
Comes with age, I think.
So, you really, if you can and you want it done, put an order in, put a request in for us to get your thumbprint report done, because it's the the first step to the rest of your financial life, so to speak. And it's a place, it becomes a template, it becomes a grounding point or a springboard from which everything else can happen, including, as I mentioned earlier, insurances. What else? Wills.
Having a financial plan. But coming
The
back,
whole lot.
but coming back to that, what Natalie was talking about was also that having one of the other parts of being financial ready is having your right team behind you, okay, and having someone that can look after your rental property is very important, particularly from a lender's point of view. That you want to make sure there's 3 things that the banks look for in a loan in any situation. Is purpose. Well, if you're investing, we know what the purpose is.
Yeah.
But we need to explain that to the lender. The other thing is equity. We've spoke about equity in previous programs, how you can leverage off the equity that you've currently got in your property and actually do 100% lend. The other thing that the lender will look at and has to look at is serviceability. So from that perspective is ensuring from serviceability is what income you get. Now someone like Natalie protects that for you. It's nothing worse having your rental property sitting vacant for months on end because you don't have any tenants. So having a professional on board is gold, okay?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got an oversupply of renters at the moment to cater that there's constantly soaking up any new properties that come on board. So yes, you definitely need that, but to have a good look. When I started investing, it was just ad hoc. I didn't really know.
Did you do your own rental?
I did. I started
sure we
my
all
own rental.
did.
I'll tell you a little story with that. It was this little property in St Kilda. It was just a one little tiny bedroom flat in 4 levels, and I think I mentioned on another show that I'd settled it, and I got a bill a few weeks after that telling me that I had to contribute $5,000 into the body corporate to cater for all the rust proofing that had to be done over the whole building, because it's right on the beach. So anyway, I had this guy in there ended up being 2 or 3 years, and he was a great tenant. And I thought today he rang me up for something, a squeaky door, or I was going to oil it or something, and I went in there and I thought, today's the day I'm going to raise the rent because it hadn't been done. So I walked in there, I fixed the door, we sat down, we had a coffee. I walked out. Not only did I not raise the rent,
He went nuts.
but I gave him a month off. No, I gave him a month off because he was in IT. IT was oversupplied at the time. He was finding it hard to get a new contract, but he was a great guy. We'd become friends. And when push
So you
comes
felt
to
sorry
shove, yeah, but you help people. That,
Yeah, of course you do.
most people help people. right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to try.
So I gave him a hand, and then I walked down. I thought, I'm too close to this guy. We have to. I have to somehow break that get through that barrier. So I waited a few months, gave it to an agent, and it was all done.
But
He
it
stayed
doesn't
on.
take long to
Well,
do your own thing, and then you find out the
and
hard
it's a tax
way.
today. Anyway,
You don't want
Natalie
to
said
be doing
it all.
it.
so-
Yeah, you don't want to be doing it yourself.
Being investor ready is important. Having the right team behind you, and that's
right.
Natalie fits
Absolutely.
in that.
So, at the end of it all, make your request for your thumbprint report. Go to our website, get it done. We'll come and see you and get started on a financial journey that you all have fun with.
Thanks, guys. It's a great show.
Thank you. Viewers, we'll see you next week, same time, same channel, the Mortgage Busters Show. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Adrian. We'll see you next week.